Hello and welcome back to the channel and my solo classic edition RuneQuest campaign. We're reaching an exciting stage, one of my personal favorites, character creation. So if you'll recall from the previous videos, I'd be building up to my stage approach, and stage one involves the creation of characters, our starting party, and also the starting area, the starting settlement, the local environs, and the area around. But what we're going to kick off with first is one of my personal favorites, and I always like doing a bit of character creation, and RuneQuest is no exception. It offers a very entertaining and interesting character creation process. Now, what I have done with the RuneQuest character creation is I have done what I usually do. I have put my solo overlay on in order to for myself to really give me a bit more of an interesting solo experience. So I'm probably best just explaining exactly what I'm talking about. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a set of characters before you. What I do on my channel is I basically do everything on camera. So there's none of this, I go away and basically roll up a set of characters and then present you with them. I am going to do all that before your very eyes. However, I am not going to bore you with the basically filling out the individual character sheets, calculating the individual skills, doing all the previous experience, actually calculating based on how many years of service the characters have. I'll probably show you the end result of that. However, all the quite what I would classify as the quite interesting aspects and the overlays that I put on, these will be the aspects that I will be majoring on camera, and then I'll show you the results of what we're talking about thereafter. So you might be familiar with this. This was my overall objectives about character party generation. I am going to perform a mini game where each successive character has constraints placed on their backgrounds, a range of ages, and with no over-experienced parties being the result. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and shape a character party. I'm going to generate it randomly, but there will be some kind of guidelines on how I get a bit of variety in that and a bit of balance. And that will come through in the backgrounds that we generate, the ages that we spread across the character party, and hopefully we're not going to have an over-experienced party straight off the bat, which would kind of like, maybe take a bit of the challenge out of the situation. I don't really want a whole set of characters that are running around with 50% skill ability. I really want them to have a bit of a struggle ahead of them. They probably would have a struggle anyhow if they're 50, but I really want a bit more of a raw party. However, I don't want a completely inexperienced 16-year-old. I want, my minimum age is going to be 18. I know in my second video, I think I said they were all going to be around 21. I've kind of reconsidered that, and I think that would generate too much of an overpowered party. So I've developed a mechanism where I can almost like pull back the years of service to 18, and then all the ages in between up to 21, and just generate a spread of ages in that kind of range. And that's nice for generating what I see as the kind of ideal party that's got a bit of veteran input and some kind of young blood, young adventuring blood in it too. There's going to be a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5 characters. 25% of the adventurers will be female, and as I've said in this before, the females have a greater role in the various human societies, but these are still essentially male dominated. All characters will be human. The setting is human dominated, and the other races are generally rare and remote. But here's my first caveat. I relented on this. I said that there is a very small chance that the generation process will result in a non-human exile or adventurer being selected. Whoa. So we might get our elf or dwarf or dragon newt or something. And I've got another category in the background, which I have called exotic. And when we come to that section, I'll be able to show you how that works. And then characters, they will be selected from a table of background options to derive a balanced party composition. So I'm saying that the party's backgrounds are probably the key determinant of where the characters go from here, and what previous experience based on the appendix that's in the RuneQuest book, Appendix H, at the end, which goes into the different types of, I suppose you would call professions or vocations, like militia or apprentice or mercenary, or in the case of barbarians, just their actual tribal life. They are the ones that are going to be kind of fleshed out through and determined by that initial background. So that's I'm kind of setting myself up with the background as being the main driver throughout this process. And on top of that, their characters will also be defined by their culture and beliefs, and we'll get a selection of behaviors based on this. So based on what the background is, I have some tables to work out where exactly these people are from, what how their cultures have affected their belief system, their outlook on life, and also I'll be bringing in some personality items. I'll be pointing out something that I took from Griffin Mountain, where I have this as an example. This was the RuneQuest NPC record form. And let's look at all this detail that you could have on it. But I've taken a few key aspects. I've taken personality factors, so I'm adding them into. So I'll be able to derive a key personality factor for our characters. I haven't really done anything else, but I've replaced that with my cultural behavior and trait mechanic. So you'll see that in action. And finally, the characters will have had several years of previous experience to gain some skills and a background story. And I have a little mini game within a mini game where I do the service life, and I go through each year and I say, has there been any events this year? Maybe not, or yes, there have, or my goodness, there's been a lot going on this year. And I roll some typical events that you would get in, say if a mercenary, and what a mercenary would be up to. Maybe they were involved in a skirmish, or have they been out on campaign, that type of thing. Maybe they've had a wound, that type of stuff. So hopefully by demonstrating this to you, you get a feel for the characters as they flesh out. We get to kind of know them. We get to see what they're called, what their backgrounds are. We also roll up their statistics. And as I said, I won't bore you with the detail of filling out the character sheet for each. I'll do that off camera. But I think it's nice to get to see the characteristics being rolled. And also I'll make some key decisions about anything that needs a kind of die roll, or trying to find out something about the character. Okay, let's move on. Now, character generation. What I'm saying is we use a checklist to follow the steps in the character party creation. And this is our checklist. And also I have a template to capture data and information before transferring this to individual character sheets. So I have got my overall template, which is on a landscape, which does that fits into camera, doesn't it? Yeah. Where I've got all the necessary points down here that I'm going, all the data points I'm going to be capturing, and I have from 1 to 5 characters that I can fill out, and I'll collect all the data on here, and then I'll transfer it to the RuneQuest character sheet, probably the Mark IV version at the back of this book. Yeah, here's the Mark IV, this thing, and I'll have, maybe I'll do this one. Yeah, I like this one that's got the actual shape of the body. It's got this little kind of rhomboid character. And I'll be filling that out for each individual one by taking this data and putting it onto that and doing, and when we do the actual previous experience, which is in Appendix H, I'll just get to that. Appendix H, here we go. This previous experience, we're going to have a chance that we increase our characteristics, and then what we do, whether we go into the militia, we can go into the militia and be an apprentice at the same time. So we've got an apprenticeship, and what apprentice are we going to be? Are we going to be a forester? Are we going to be an armourer? Are we going to be maritime or something? And then we've got our barbarians here, and probably my favourite, mercenaries. So, okay. Just close the window a bit. There's a dog next door making a bit of noise. Right, back to my checklist. So the first thing we're going to do is determine the party size. So let's just do that. So I'll just put my checklist to one side. I've got my die roll thing here, and I've got a little subtable here that says party size, number of characters. Now I'm using my solo mechanic, which has got this probability split of high, medium and low, and I'm saying that there's a high probability we'd have 4, there is a medium probability that we have 3 characters, and a low probability that we have a lot of characters, we have 5. So let's get our percentage dice out. So this is the first RuneQuest solo classic RuneQuest die roll in anger to find out how many characters are in our party. And we get, oh my goodness, an emphatic 99. Now, you could almost not get much more emphatic than that. They really want me to go to town on the character creation. And you're probably all going, oh my goodness, Brian's going to go through 5 characters it's going to take him about 10 videos to get through. Hopefully not. Let us keep our fingers crossed. You never know, I might get really slick because I've got so many characters. So that's a start. We've got 5 characters. We'll be using all 5 columns of this sheet. Okay. Right, what do we do next? Determine the character's sex. So, I said that we've got a male-female split of 01 to 75 male and 61 to 90 female. So, let us get our little table out, a little matrix, and we will do character by character what sex they are. So the first one, we're going to have 50, so he's a male. And the next character, that's 19, So he's a male. And the next one, that is 47. That's another male. Okay, let's see how we get on this one. That's 34. That's another male. And our last one, 70. Okay, so they're all male. Well, it can't get fairer than that. Yeah, I'm not going to do a DEI program on this. It is what it is. It's all men in this one. We'll see if we can recruit maybe a female into the party to get a bit of balance. Just as a bit unbalanced, it's just as I've just been going on about having a balanced party. The first thing we do, we don't have any females in the party. That's a bit, my traveller party, it's the other way around. It's 3 females and one male, but there you go. Right, determine the character's background. That's what we do next, stage 3. So we go to this page here. And what I have, I have the background table from the rule book here. But I have done a little change, and I have ruled that we do not have any rich or extremely rich nobles, and what I have put in its place is something that I call exotic. And exotic will cover, I will explain what exotic covers when we come to that. But I also have a kind of process that I follow for each character, so that I get a balance of backgrounds, and I'm going to get a whole bunch of either peasants or townsmen or maybe old barbarians. I'm going to get a balanced party. So let's see how this works out. So for character 1, I just roll a background and select result. So I'm just going to roll 1d100 and see exactly what I get. So let's get our shaker going. And we get a 93, which is a poor noble. So that's an interesting start. So character 1 is a poor noble background. Poor noble. All right. So already the mind is racing about what his background is. And then for character 2, we roll the background, exclude peasant. So if I'd rolled peasant, I wasn't going to get another. Select townsman instead. But we didn't do that. And no duplication, so re-roll if necessary. So I will not be allowed to get a poor noble again. Now I am probably pretty unlikely to get a poor noble again because it's not a high probability. But if I did, we'd have to re-roll. So, because when you look at the actual probabilities, townsmen are the largest. And what I'm saying is I don't really want too many peasants in the party, because I don't think it's realistic that you would draw these type of adventurers maybe from that class of society. You're talking maybe more the exception, like a runaway slave or a peasant that's just decided, maybe he's in a conquered area and he's escaped or something. Okay, so let's see what we get for our second character. So this is basically just a straight roll again, but we just ignore a poor noble if it comes up. So, oh my goodness, what is going on with these rolls today? That's 100. That's an exotic. Right. Well, yeah, I'm just going to put exotic down because I want to keep my powder dry on what exotics are. Let's just tantalize you with the name exotic, and we'll find out exactly what that is. Okay, so let's get back to I don't really quite know what to say. 100 coming up. Okay, it has to happen, I suppose, but I just didn't really expect it on your second roll on the character background sheet. Check. So character 3, roll background, exclude peasant again. select barbarian and no duplication. So if we get a peasant coming up, it's a barbarian this time, no duplication. So we were not allowed to get, we're probably unlikely to get a poor noble or exotic, but everything else is up for grabs. If our peasant comes up, it's a barbarian. So the emphasis is on character 3 being a barbarian. So you can see where this is going from. Basically, the emphasis on character 2 being a townsman, the emphasis on character 3 being a barbarian, if you haven't already got one. So I am hoping that we will get probably a barbarian on this one. So let's find out. And not an exotic, because we're not allowed any more. And what do we get? We get a 22. So our 22 is a peasant. We exclude peasant, we select barbarian. So yes, we have our barbarian. So character 3 is a barbarian. Nice one. And we'll find out what type of barbarian later on when we do this down here, homeland. Homeland and cultural background. Okay, so we are back to character 4 now. And character 4 is, we almost go back to the start again, on the assumption that we have generated quite a bit of variety already. And you must admit, for a starting party, a poor noble, an exotic, and a barbarian, that's we haven't got any townsmen, we haven't got any peasants. That's almost 60% of the table is not represented. So we've got quite a spicy selection already, just through the die rolls. So let's just do a straight die roll on character 4 and see exactly what happens with character 4. So that is 12. That is a peasant. So we have a peasant. We have a peasant in the party. Okay. So the only one missing is a townsman. So luckily, because we're coming to character 5, we roll the background. It's almost like we go back to character 2 again. Exclude peasant, select townsman instead. Okay. But everything else is up for grabs because there's none of this, there's no duplication stuff. This is basically all this 01 to 60 is townsman, and the rest of these are up for grab. So we could even get another exotic. My goodness, I would fall off my seat if we did, but let's see what we get. Let's see what my crazy dice are going to do tonight. So we get a 77, and a 77 means, oh right, okay, so we get another barbarian. We've had no townsman. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. We've got another barbarian. Well, it is what it is. We'll just have to go for a barbarian. The only thing about not having a townsman is it's very easy for them to become apprentices, so we could have them in interesting vocations and previous experience. However, peasant, they can go for an apprenticeship too, and they could be a forester or I think horseman, or I can't remember what the other one is. Is it the thieves? It'd be interesting to maybe have a thief. That would be quite an understandable vocation for either an escaped slave or escaped serf. Someone of low status that's managed to flee the estate of a tyrannical lord. That could be that kind of story behind them. Okay, well that proved to be interesting. So let's go on to what we do next. And step 4 on our checklist is we determine the characters' ages. Now, I remember I said they were all going to be 21. I've already explained. I've kind of stepped back on that. I think I want a bit of more of a spread of ages, but I don't want your raw 16-year-olds. The minimum is going to be 18. So I have a little age table here. And I have a few little ground rules on that. I'm saying no more than 2 characters can be age 20, and no more than 2 characters can be age 21. Okay, so it's just a straight roll on this table, and we'll find out what the ages are. So for our poor noble, the first one, let's see how young or old he is. And he is a 13. So 13 is aged 18. So he's young-ish, 18. And then we roll for our exotic. Exotic. This might, based on what the exotic actually is, if it is a non-human, I might have to reappraise exactly what this age means. However, I will translate it into either elven or dwarvish or dragon newt age bands. I will just say that this for the previous experience, I'll have to maybe have a bit of a think about that. this is what solo role playing is all about. You've got to kind of maybe dig under the rules a bit, and you know, not everything is going to be explained, and it's just basically straightforward. There might be a bit of nuance, and you can use a bit of subjectivity in that decision. So let's see what age our exotic is. So we get a 20. So they're aged 18 as well. So there's no rule about them not being all 18. So our exotic's 18. Okay. What is our first barbarian? What age is he? He's an 88. So an 88 means, oh, he's 20. Okay. So he's a bit older and potentially wiser. We'll have to wait and see. Barbarians maybe have a bit of world sense. You know, they're not always this kind of stereotype of a Conan, you know, just running around with a sword. So what is our next one is the peasant. Our peasant, what is our peasant's age going to be? 23. My goodness, they're all going for the 18 bracket. Yeah, 18 for our peasant. So our last barbarian is going to be, he can be anything he wants, actually, on this one. So our last barbarian is a 30. And would you believe it? That is, 30 is 18 again. My goodness. All right, so we're not going to have the most experienced party. We're going to have a large party, but it's not of experienced characters, apart from maybe the barbarian who has got 4 years of previous service. So he's going to have some quite reasonable skills. Maybe not the full level that you would get after 5 years, but I will calibrate it so that he has basically 4/5 of where he should be. Okay, right. So what is next on our checklist? So we've done ages, we've done backgrounds, determine the character's homelands and cultures. Okay. So not only do we have a background, but we have what I call your homeland and your culture. And I've got a little table for that. And it's here. Just out of the way. What I have here, I have the backgrounds on the left of peasant, townsman, noble, barbarian, and exotic. And I also have some of my major polities or cultural areas or I suppose geographical regions and types of cultures represented in these columns. And for peasant, townsman, and noble, I'm saying they are drawn from either the Hellenic Empire, which is our kind of equivalent to the Lunar Empire, a conquered city-state of the Hellenic Empire, yes, a recent conquest of that empire as it is expanding across the Great Vale, or an independent city-state that is still valiantly fighting on and defending itself against this evil empire. Well, they perceive it as an evil empire. Selenics would say otherwise, and they would definitely counter that argument. And I have different probabilities of what, based on your background, of where you come from. And for the barbarian, I'm saying you could either be a forest barbarian, a highland barbarian, or a nomadic. And nomadic barbarians are mounted. According to the previous experience, there's two different types. There's mounted, and there's also foot, and that will be the forest and the highland barbarians. And then, oh yes, exotic. We come to our exotic at last. And exotic can be probably from the margins of my world of the Great Vale. We have this island archipelago, which is inhabited by island lords, devious scoundrel-like pirates, and native tribes. So you'd come from the islands on a 01 to 50. The tundra area, which is a small region of tundra in the north of the Great Vale, just before these sheer mountains. So you will probably come from a tribal culture that lives there. Or the famous, this is the small chance that I was talking about, the 71 to 100 on a D100, you can get a non-human. Now, I have not specified a subtable for that. I would have to go away and generate it on the basis I didn't think I was going to have to use it. But yes, I'm going to have to. And it won't be too onerous, and it is going to include things like ducks, ducks and Morocanth, and what else we got? Dragon newts and elves and Mustali, all the fantastic RuneQuest races. No brews or anything like that. No, we're not doing any of this chaos nonsense. It's all going to be legit non-humans from reasonable cultures, but they're all in that there. So we can go back to our template, and we can select our character 1, and who is a poor noble. So he goes into this line here, noble, and let's find out exactly where he is from, according to our little percentage. So he is a 40, and a poor noble on a, he's from the conquered city-state. So maybe that's the reason why he's so disgruntled. He's off. He's fed up of these. He's been dispossessed by these awful Selenic conquerors. Conquered city-state. Okay, so that's our first one. So already we're starting to build up maybe a little bit of a picture of what these things are. So we get to our favorite one, our exotic, our 18-year-old exotic. What is our 18-year-old exotic going to be? Let's find out. So we get our percentage dice again. We get a 77. What did I say? What was it I said? Let's refer back to my little thing. Caveat: there is a very small chance that the generation process will result in a non-human, exiled, or adventurer being selected. Well, I've just done it. I've just done it the first time. We have now got a non-human. So, I don't have an answer for that just now. I'm just going to have to put in a non-human, and for the next episode, because obviously I am not going to get through all this in one episode. I was planning to maybe do it over 2 or 3. I will be able to determine, have a little mini table of non-humans that we get our famous duck. You know, I have to get a duck in there at some stage, or dragon newt would be fantastic. But let's find out what our non-human is next time. We have a barbarian, so let's find out what our more experienced. This is the only one that's 20. Let's find out where this barbarian hails from. He is 02. So that sounds like forest to me. I think it probably is. Yep, he's from. So he's basically a farmer type barbarian. Maybe something like equivalent would be like Celtic kind of, or Gauls in France before it became France and taken over by the Franks. You know, that kind of, you know, they are kind of agrarian. They are settled cultures. They got some form. They haven't really got cities, but they've got some reasonably sophisticated society. So that is what we have here. We have a forest barbarian, and then our peasant. Let's find out where our peasant's from. Has he run away from the empire? Is he maybe one of the conquered ones? Let's find out. We have 24. And a 24, according to my table, is 24. Oh, he's from the Hellenic Empire. Okay. So he is a Hellenic, effectively a lunar. So we've got somebody who's from a conquered area and a peasant from the actual empire itself. So is he one of these peasants that is rah rah, you know, I'm all for the empire, you know, it's right that it's expanding, you know, put down these awful independent cities, you know, they're just too wild, they need to come under our control? Or is he a bit resentful and he's run away, or maybe even an ex-slave, because slavery is a form of ownership? You know, effectively, it's a bit like the Roman system. When the Romans took over an area, they enslaved the population and basically used them as chattel, and that was one of their moral kind of how they got over the concept of slavery, and in their moral eyes they thought it was legitimate because these were conquests, these were basically booty of war, plunder. They had a right to control them. So is this effectively an escaped slave? We'll find out. And then our last barbarian, let's find out where he comes from. And we have a 70 and a 70. Oh, right. Okay. So we have our nomad. We've got a nomadic barbarian. That's always nice to have. So we've got nomadic in our little worksheet. Okay. Right. I think we've got time to crack through some characteristics as well, and do some mass die rolling. Just to give you a heads up on what else we need to do in this thing. So step 7 is determine all the characters' characteristics. So we do a whole stack of die rolling. I don't have any specific method. I'm basically going to revisit the characteristics after the previous experience, because there is scope to increase your characteristics during that. And also, what I might do is, if any characteristic is, say, 6 or below, there is an option in the RuneQuest appendices where they say, as long as you don't have a characteristic beyond 15, you can re-roll that. Or I might distribute, if say they are really bad characteristics, I might use a bit of discretion and add and give, say, 1d6 or 2d6 and roll that and say these are points that we can distribute between those characteristics. We really got to find out exactly what the gods of the Great Veil roll for us. So I was going to tell you exactly what everything else after this was going to be. We're going to determine the characters' personalities and cultural traits. I've got some tables on that based on these as just a general personality, and also the cultural aspect, where we will be able to select 1 to 3 basically cultural traits. So, you know, things like say for the Hellenic Empire, they are quite aggressive, and maybe aggression is one of the traits. They also have quite cosmopolitan. You know, they view They are not shy of integrating other races into their empire. It's those type of cultural things that we will bring in, and say that these are the keynotes for that particular character as drivers in their personality. And that helps when we come to actual interactions further down the line. As long as I can kind of juggle that and remember it all, I've got that in my notebook for that character as to shaping his or her motivation. And also I have an index where their attitude to religion and their religious conviction. That's on a scale of 1 to 10, and different kind of readings of that. We'll go on to determine which profession, vocation the character opts for, and let's step through their service life each year to generate their service history. That's quite an interesting little process. I've got some tables that give you the chance of having an event every year. So with these characters, they're not going to have a massive amount. We're going to have 2 years for this one, 2 years for this one, 4 years for that one, 2 for this and 2 for that. But maybe for this character there might be some eventful things happen. Maybe even for the others, they might have exceptional things happening, and we get a lot of events in. And I think that would be quite good for shaping the character, a bit like what I was doing with my traveller characters. It's not part of the rules. It's like a kind of an overlay that I've added in just to give a bit of flavour to the background. Yeah, sorry, I had a slight interruption there. I'm actually probably reaching the end of what I think is probably realistic for this session. It's been quite heavy and eventful. What I plan to do is just straight on the back of this, I can carry on with this process. I'll be rattling through the characteristics at the start of the next one, and then getting into the personality, the cultural traits, the religious conviction of the characters, and then we'll be able to determine what exactly the profession or vocation that these characters have gone for. Poor noble, you're probably hoping to get into the mercenaries. Exotic, who knows? I'm going to have a little table on that. That's going to be an exciting little mini role for that. Find out what exotic we're actually talking about. And then the barbarian is probably going to be the barbarian life as being the one that's chosen. The peasant, he could go for an apprenticeship, I think I'll probably try to go for. And if he doesn't get into it as an apprenticeship, he can always serve as a militia. And then I think he can go for mercenary. Yeah, there is an entry. In fact, there was an omission in the RuneQuest rules of the mercenary entry, and I think in version 2, they'd taken away the role that you needed to get into the mercenary, so I'm going to reinstate that. And then for this barbarian, he's probably going to have a nomadic barbarian upbringing too. I think the barbarians do have options for mercenaries too, but I think the actual barbarian previous experience is good for those two to experience. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for joining me on this initial character journey. We've got a large party, the largest we've got. It's quite a young party. It is very varied. There are no townsmen in it. It's like townsmen do not exist in this party. It's probably got a natural leader, we hope, maybe, in the poor noble, but who's to say that this barbarian, being a bit older and more wiser and experienced, is not the leader. It's got something which I did not expect on the first party, an exotic, which is going to be a non-human. It's got a lot of potential. It's even got this, our peasant, who maybe is an escaped slave. He's got a bit of resentment. Maybe he's going to become a thief or something, with all those little skills that we get. Okay, well, that was fun for me. I hope you enjoyed that too, and I will be posting straight on the back of this one my update and continuation of this process. Right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.